Senior Physician Kreth declared the patient beyond saving and stepped away. Then the human doctor pushed past him and started doing something so medically insane that Lyssa could only watch in horrified fascination. The sterile, dimly lit room was filled with an eerie quiet as Senior Physician Kreth's pronouncement hung heavily between them. The young Ven'Thari girl lay motionless on the medical bed, her pale, silver skin now cold and still under the blue glow of diagnostic lights. Lyssa stood beside the bed, long blue hair draped over her shoulders like a mourning shroud, eyes wide with disbelief as she clutched her friend's hand in one final gesture. "I'm sorry," Kreth said softly, addressing no one specific, but acknowledging everyone present. His tone was that of resignation and disappointment. "Her organs are too severely damaged for us to repair them within the necessary time frame." Lyssa's shoulders slumped, tears welling up in her wide violet eyes as she realized there was nothing more they could do. Dr. Sara Chen, however, didn't seem to have received Kreth's message of defeat. She pushed past him towards the medical equipment lining one wall, disregarding his earlier instructions and skepticism with a single-minded focus that spoke volumes about her determination. "Wait, doctor," Chen said firmly without turning around. Her voice was low but carried authority, even through its weariness. Kreth scoffed under his breath, looking back at Dr. Chen, as though she were an insolent child trying to play doctor in their advanced facility. "You are human," he spat out coldly, crossing his arms over his chest. "You cannot possibly—" "I have an idea," Sara interrupted calmly, but with an unmistakable edge of finality that demanded attention. Lyssa felt her heart thud hard against her ribcage at the sheer audacity of Dr. Chen's suggestion. It was insane to think she could do anything now, when all their technology had failed them. It violated everything Lyssa had learned about human medicine and capability. Before anyone else could argue, Sara began assembling a medical kit in a way that made no sense by any conventional standards or practices known within the xenobiology research station. She grabbed an emergency defibrillator next to the patient's bed without hesitation, normally used only as a temporary stabilizer, and started connecting it into intricate circuits of alien diagnostic instruments. "It's not going to work," Kreth warned, his voice dripping with disdain and disbelief. "Believe me when I say that we have no other options left at this point," Sara retorted sharply while fumbling through various supplies. "I'm improvising here." Lyssa watched in stunned silence as Dr. Chen worked feverishly, her hands moving like lightning yet never losing their precision, despite the exhaustion etched deeply into every line of her body from long hours without rest. She grabbed a syringe filled with an unknown human medicine and carefully injected it directly into one of their complex alien regeneration pads. "I can't believe this is happening," Lyssa whispered to herself, tears streaming down her face unheeded as she gazed at the chaotic scene unfolding before her eyes. "It shouldn't be possible," Kreth sneered, but could not deny Sara's resolve in the midst of chaos and desperation. Instead, he folded his arms more tightly around himself, watching from afar with derision etched into every line of his stoic expression. Sara didn't wait for further objections, her fingers dancing across interfaces between human medical devices and alien ones that were clearly incompatible. She linked wires, haphazardly yet precisely enough to form a makeshift circuit connecting an array of unfamiliar tools together in such way only she seemed capable of understanding at this moment. "Please work," Sara muttered softly under breath as if praying, though her eyes never left the patient's fragile body or ceased moving with deft precision towards completion of whatever task she believed could save their lives. Lyssa's disbelief turned quickly into awe and fear, watching a human doctor do something that should be impossible according to all laws, both medical and physical, was akin to witnessing some kind of miracle. Her worldview shattered around her as new questions arose every second, yet no immediate answers formed in response. "Senior Physician Kreth," Sara called out suddenly, voice carry across room with urgency despite her exhaustion showing clearly on face, now strained from lack sleep and overworking herself beyond reasonable limits for days on end, trying to find solution where none seemed existent anymore. Please secure this machine so it stays stable while I try another method. Kreth gave a sharp nod, albeit begrudgingly, moving towards Sara's makeshift setup with surprising speed considering his usual measured demeanor earlier in situation. Lyssa stepped closer, now feeling need to understand despite disbelief gripping tightly around her heart, like fist clenching too tight. She needed answers, even if they meant tearing apart everything she thought was true about humans and medicine across galaxy. "What are you doing?" Lyssa asked, trying desperately not let fear show through as much curiosity shone clear in eyes now wide open with realization dawning upon her. Sara paused momentarily, looking up at young Ven'Thari student standing just behind her shoulder, gauging expression before continuing. "Combining everything I know about human medicine and alien technology to form one last attempt," she explained simply without any trace of arrogance or bravado. Lyssa's mouth hung open slightly as realization dawned upon face. Sara's hands kept moving steadily, even under gaze now fixated fully onto her rather than instruments in front them both. There was no hesitation anymore, only pure focus and determination that radiated off Dr. Chen. Despite impossibility, they faced together right here, right now. Sara finished setting up final piece of equipment with each small hum from machine indicating it had been successfully activated somehow under improbable circumstances created by human hands working beyond limits known even to herself most likely. "Here we go," Sara whispered softly before pressing button that would initiate process combining medical techniques far outside realm any Ven'Thari physician ever expected possible or needed, let alone imagined, could be performed effectively. Lyssa watched breathlessly as lights flickered briefly, then stabilized into steady glow indicating machines now working together as single entity driven solely by human ingenuity and alien precision. Patient's chest, once still cold under blue light, began to rise faintly with each passing second until finally heart monitor showed distinct blips signaling life returning slowly but surely back into fragile body lying before them all. Kreth blinked several times trying process what just unfolded around him while Lyssa's hands shook almost uncontrollably as emotion swirled inside her mind and heart. Shock, awe, gratitude towards Sara for doing something utterly impossible, yet somehow it worked anyway. Dr. Chen wiped sweat off brow with trembling hand, barely noticing herself until now due to sheer focus required performing life-saving procedure just moments ago. Lyssa stepped forward hesitantly, placing gentle hand on Sara's shoulder in silent thank you, unable yet find words articulate what she felt or saw happening within room right this moment. Impossible became possible because human refused accept limits placed before her eyes, and heart instead chose fight until very last breath, no matter how unlikely success appeared at start. Patient's monitor continued showing steady rhythm under watchful gazes of both Ven'Thari doctor and young student now standing beside each other, sharing unspoken understanding that just witnessed something far beyond normal medical capabilities or expectations across entire galaxy. Dr. Sara Chen's heart was pounding in her chest as she worked frantically to save the young alien patient named Kreth. The room around her hummed with energy, a mixture of medical machinery and desperation that threatened to overwhelm anyone who dared stay within its confines for too long. Despite her exhaustion, Dr. Chen's movements were precise, and steady years of experience had taught her how to navigate through chaos. Lyssa Ven'Thari watched in shock as Sara manipulated the alien technology with an untrained hand, yet somehow managed to make it work alongside human medical techniques that seemed entirely incompatible by all accounts she knew. The Ven'Thari student's eyes darted back and forth between Dr. Chen's hands moving deftly over instruments, monitors beeping softly in rhythm with her heartbeats. "What are you doing?" Lyssa asked hesitantly, voice barely above a whisper as fear mingled with fascination. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The combination of human methods with Ven'Thari technology that should have been impossible according to everything she had learned about medicine across the galaxy. Sara paused momentarily, looking up at Lyssa, who stood just behind her shoulder, gauging her expression, before continuing, without hesitation or bravado. "Combining everything I know about human medicine and alien technology," Sara explained simply. Her hands kept moving steadily despite the weight of expectation now squarely on both their shoulders. "Every method is useless in isolation when faced with something like this." Lyssa's mouth hung open slightly as realization dawned upon her face, but she could not tear herself away from watching Sara work miracles, even under such improbable circumstances. There was no hesitation, anymore, only pure focus and determination radiating off Dr. Chen. Despite the impossibility they faced together, Sara finished setting up one final piece of equipment with a small hum indicating successful activation, somehow managed against all odds previously imagined possible or achievable by anyone, let alone herself, most likely, at this critical moment in time. "Here we go," Sara whispered softly, before pressing down on button that would initiate process combining medical techniques far outside realm any Ven'Thari physician ever expected to witness, much less perform effectively. Lyssa watched breathlessly as lights flickered briefly, then stabilized into steady glow indicating machines now working together seamlessly, driven solely by human ingenuity and alien precision. She felt her own heart clenching tight in both fear and awe. No one had ever attempted anything remotely similar before. Taudalit alone succeeded at it so miraculously. Patient's chest, once still cold under blue light, began to rise faintly with each passing second, until finally the heart monitor showed distinct blips, signaling life returning slowly but surely back into fragile body lying before them all. Kreth's eyes fluttered open weakly, as if barely registering reality, yet aware enough now of miracle playing out around him. "Is it working?" Lyssa asked, her voice trembling slightly, though she tried hard to hide the emotions swirling inside her mind and heart. Shock, awe, gratitude, these feelings threatened to overwhelm thoughts, but could not compare against wonderment staring back at Sara Chen performing something utterly impossible yet somehow managed success in its own unique way. Dr. Chen wiped sweat off her brow with a trembling hand, barely noticing herself until now due to sheer focus required during procedure just moments ago. She turned towards Lyssa, eyes still holding intense determination, even through exhaustion clearly visible now etched into every line of body language and expression. Lyssa stepped forward hesitantly, placing gentle hand on Sara's shoulder in silent thank you, unable yet find words articulate what she felt or saw happening within room right this moment. Impossible became possible because human refused to accept limits placed before her eyes and heart. Instead chose fight until very last breath, no matter how unlikely success appeared at start. Patient's monitor continued showing steady rhythm under watchful gazes of both Ven'Thari doctor and young student now standing beside each other, sharing unspoken understanding that just witnessed something far beyond normal medical capabilities or expectations across entire galaxy. Kreth blinked several times trying process what unfolded around him, while Lyssa's hands shook almost uncontrollably as emotions swirled inside her mind and heart. Dr. Chen smiled through exhausted tears, the weight of impossible victory finally sinking in after hours of relentless effort. "Yet here we are," she whispered softly to no one in particular, but more a statement acknowledging reality they shared right now. Toj, through a moment that transcended worlds, species, and even time itself. Lyssa's violet eyes widened as Sara spoke those words, the gravity of what had just happened crashing down around them both like tidal wave hitting shores after endless storm. This was not possible. No, this went beyond possible into realm unimaginable, until now witnessed firsthand right here within confines of research station that felt suddenly far too small to contain miracle they had created together. Why? Lyssa asked, finally finding voice again, even if question seemed silly given what she already saw and understood. But sometimes logic needed asking when faced against reality defying itself in ways impossible to explain rationally or scientifically. Sara looked up at her, then sighed softly, feeling exhaustion pressing down harder now than ever before, but smile remained unwavering through tired eyes, reflecting pure satisfaction of successful result achieved despite overwhelming odds stacked against them from beginning. Sometimes, she said quietly yet clearly, you just have no choice but to try when everything else fails. And for Lyssa, Ven'Thari standing there amidst aftermath, watching human doctor grinning softly through tears while patient's heart monitor continued beeping steadily, signifying victory over impossible challenges posed by life itself, was moment that would change her understanding of universe forever, opening doors previously thought closed tight against possibility. The patient's monitor displayed a steady rhythm, signaling stability after the harrowing procedure that had transpired within the confines of Dr. Sara Chen's lab. Breathing heavily through exhaustion and exhilaration, Sara wiped sweat off her brow with trembling hands that were now stained crimson from hours of relentless work. She turned towards Lyssa Ven'Thari, who was standing in disbelief just a few feet away. Lyssa's pale silver skin seemed to glow faintly under the clinical lighting as she stared at Dr. Chen, her wide violet eyes filled with an emotion Sara couldn't quite name, but recognized it was all mixed with shock, and perhaps even wonderment. Lyssa's student robes were rumpled from a night spent pacing beside the lab door, waiting anxiously for news of their patient's fate. Dr. Chen, Lyssa whispered, finally breaking the silence that had stretched between them like an unbreachable chasm filled only by the beeping of machines and Sara's ragged breaths. How? Sara blinked several times, her dark eyes reflecting exhaustion even as they burned with determination. She didn't need to ask what Lyssa meant. She knew exactly which impossible event had been witnessed. Patient stabilized, Sara confirmed quietly, reaching for a towel from the small sink beside them and wiping blood off her hands. I did not know I could not. Lyssa's hand trembled slightly as it came up to rest gently on Dr. Chen's shoulder in what seemed like an instinctive gesture of gratitude or support, or perhaps both. Her voice, when she spoke again, was barely above a whisper, but held the weight of her disbelief. Our technology is centuries more advanced, Lyssa said slowly, almost reverently. You should not be able to do that. Sara turned back towards the patient monitor, her gaze lingering on the steady heart rate displayed there, before returning to look at Lyssa with a soft smile and raised eyebrow. The exhaustion was evident in every line of her posture now, but Sara's spirit remained unbroken. I didn't know I couldn't, she repeated calmly, turning away from Lyssa briefly to gather herself together once more. I saw someone dying, and I tried everything I could think of. Lyssa's wide eyes met hers again, then, as something akin to a revelation dawned on her face, she stepped forward another half step, hands still shaking slightly, but now clutching at the edges of Sara's lab coat almost desperately. 60 years of training, she murmured softly, more to herself than anyone else present in that moment. All those rules and you just ignored them? Sara blinked again before responding with a shrug and another quiet smile that seemed born from someplace deep within her soul, where the weight of impossible success had settled into something almost serene. Sometimes, she said simply, reaching up to pat Lyssa's hand in gentle reassurance despite knowing how inadequate such an action was for conveying all this meant. Not knowing the rules helps. As if on cue or perhaps compelled by some unseen force of their own making, the patient's monitor gave a slightly louder beep, as if announcing itself alive, and well once more after its near-death experience earlier that day. Lyssa's eyes widened further still, violet irises flashing with an intensity that threatened to burst through the clinical barriers holding it back. She let out what sounded like a strangled breath before speaking again in hushed tones filled now not just disbelief, but also something Sara recognized as reverence. This is impossible, she said softly. Sara nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of Lyssa's words, even if they didn't need to be spoken aloud. She had experienced similar moments herself throughout her career, situations that defied explanation by any normal measure, but this felt different somehow. It was as though reality itself had shifted underfoot just enough for something extraordinary and yet undeniably real to emerge. Dr. Chen turned back fully towards Lyssa, then, meeting those violet eyes across a distance filled not merely with space, but also understanding between them both, one human physician who'd pushed beyond known limits out of sheer necessity, another alien doctor whose world was forever changed by witnessing something she believed impossible. Maybe, Sara agreed softly, now that the immediate crisis had been resolved and they could take stock properly. But sometimes, when everything else fails, when every other option is exhausted, you just have no choice but to try. Lyssa's gaze softened in a way that spoke volumes beyond mere words. It was clear she understood what Dr. Chen meant, even if her mind struggled still with the implications of such an idea across species and cultures. The patient continued breathing steadily under their watchful gazes, monitors providing evidence of life sustained against all odds thanks to one human's refusal to accept limits set by any standard measure known until now. Kreth watched from a distance, his eyes wide as well, but filled not so much with shock as amazement at witnessing something truly extraordinary. And for Lyssa, Ven'Thari, standing there amidst the aftermath of an impossible victory won through sheer force of will and determination, this was more than just another day in her long training journey. It marked a turning point, one where everything she thought she knew about human medicine and indeed humanity itself was upended by witnessing something utterly beyond what should have been possible. This moment would forever change how Lyssa saw both herself as doctor in training and the wider universe around them. It opened doors previously thought closed tight against possibility. And for Sara Chen, standing there amidst her own exhaustion, but filled with pride at having saved a life under impossible circumstances, these too was more than just another day in her medical career. It represented something greater, proof that sometimes all you needed to do was try when everything else failed, and miracles could happen even where none seemed possible before. The room was silent as Sara turned back to Lyssa and the alien patient she had just brought back from the brink of death. The monitors beeped steadily, a reassuring sound that belied the drama they had just witnessed. "Do you see?" Dr. Chen asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. "She's stable now." Lyssa stood there in awe, unable to believe what she'd seen. She shook her head slowly, as if trying to process an impossible dream. This is not possible," she whispered again. Sara nodded solemnly. "I know it seems that way, but sometimes, when everything else fails, when every other option has been exhausted, you just have no choice but to try." Kreth, the senior physician of their xenobiology research station, stepped forward from where he had been watching in shock and amazement. His voice was sharp with authority as he addressed Sara directly. "Dr. Chen," Kreth began sternly, his eyes narrowing behind thick lenses that reflected none of his inner turmoil or wonder. "Your methods are dangerous, unproven at best." Sara met Kreth's gaze calmly but firmly. "I know it looks risky," she conceded quietly, "but this patient was dying, and we needed to do something. I used what knowledge I had, combined with the technology here. What else could I have done?" Kreth continued, undeterred by Sara's explanation or tone. "It worked once, but that doesn't mean it will work again. You cannot replicate such results." Lyssa felt her heart clench at Kreth's words, a sense of protectiveness for both Dr. Chen and the patient she had saved welling up inside her. Her training taught her to respect authority without question, Yet now, she found herself questioning everything. "Senior physician," Lyssa interrupted hesitantly, but firmly, surprising even herself with her boldness. "Dr. Chen saved my friend when you gave up on her. You said there was no hope, but Dr. Chen refused to accept that." The room fell silent at the unexpected challenge from a mere student questioning their leader's judgment. Kreth paused, his expression shifting as he turned towards Lyssa, visibly taken aback by this unprecedented show of defiance from someone so young in her training, but already witnessing medical miracles no one else could explain. "You believe that Dr. Chen's actions are the way forward then?" Lyssa took a deep breath and stood taller despite her nerves. She had seen with her own eyes what she once considered impossible become reality. This was not just an anomaly or chance occurrence, it represented something much more profound. "Yes," Lyssa said confidently, finding strength in both Sara's words and the evidence of life before them on the monitors. "Maybe we should learn from Dr. Chen instead of dismissing her methods out of hand, simply because they challenge what is known." Sara looked over at Kreth, hoping to convey a mix of respect for his position, while also standing firm on her beliefs about patient care and saving lives, no matter how daunting it seemed. I understand your concern," Sara said reasonably. "But if we throw away the possibility that this could work again just because it's new or unproven, then what are we really doing here?" Kreth looked from Dr. Chen to Lyssa, a conflict clear in his expression as he processed their words against everything he had been taught and believed about human medical practices. "I will not dismiss your methods out of hand," Kreth finally conceded grudgingly, nodding slowly towards Sara, even while maintaining the clinical distance between superior physician and subordinate. "But I expect thorough documentation of this procedure along with rigorous scientific analysis to prove its efficacy before it is implemented anywhere else." Sara nodded in agreement. "Of course," she replied respectfully, but firmly resolute about her methods. Lyssa felt a surge of relief followed by determination. This was not just one victory for the patient they had saved, it represented something much larger, a bridge between two worlds whose medical knowledge might now start to truly cross and complement each other rather than remain separate or adversarial. "Thank you, senior physician," Lyssa said, addressing Kreth with more confidence now that she knew there was potential here worth exploring further. "I will work closely with Dr. Chen on this." Kreth's nod held a grudging approval at the student's newfound courage and insight. He turned to leave then, but paused briefly one last time before exiting. "Remember," he said firmly, eyes lingering meaningfully between Sara and Lyssa alike, "this is just the beginning." With that, Kreth left them alone once more in their shared awe of what they had accomplished despite all odds, and the new questions it raised about medical possibilities across species lines. Sara turned back to the monitors, showing steady vital signs under her care now, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment mixed with responsibility for documenting and validating this momentous discovery properly moving forward. Lyssa watched Sara closely as well, already formulating plans on how she could delve deeper into understanding these new possibilities that blurred lines once thought immovable. It was just the start, a turning point where both doctors would be challenged but ultimately strengthened by what they had witnessed today and each other's dedication to healing no matter the odds. The Ven'Thari Medical Council had convened a tense session late into the night after Kreth's unexpected concession and Lyssa's bold statement in favor of Dr. Chen's experimental procedure. Amidst the usual hubbub, the air was thick with anticipation as each member debated whether to allow this unorthodox method to proceed without thorough scrutiny or immediate dismissal. Kreth stood tall among his peers, explaining both Sara's innovative approach and Lyssa's impassioned defense of it. He spoke not just as a superior physician, but as someone who had witnessed the extraordinary life where death was once certain. His voice carried weight, tempered by respect for tradition, while acknowledging the value in new possibilities. "Dr. Chen's methods challenge everything we know about medical practice," Kreth began cautiously, yet firmly. Yet she managed to save our patient when all else failed. We owe it not only to this singular success, but also to future potential patients whose lives may depend on such innovation. Lyssa, standing beside Sara in the observation room where they had just witnessed a miracle turn of fate, listened intently as Kreth's words echoed through her mind. The gravity of their decision weighed heavily. She was no longer just an observer or student, but someone stepping forward to bridge two worlds previously hot unbridgeable. I propose, Lyssa interjected softly yet confidently into the virtual meeting space, that Dr. Chen be allowed temporary probationary access to our facilities under strict conditions, namely documentation and rigorous analysis of her methods. Chuckles and murmurs rippled through the audience as many found humor in this request for a human's input on Ven'Thari medicine. Yet Lyssa met each skeptical gaze with unwavering resolve, her own medical training informing every word she spoke. Furthermore, Kreth continued smoothly over any objections from his colleagues, who still viewed Sara's actions with suspicion and disbelief. I suggest that I oversee this probation personally to ensure proper documentation and validation. The council deliberated briefly, but agreed under Kreth's leadership. Approval came swiftly yet conditionally. Dr. Chen could proceed on a trial basis, every move recorded meticulously. Back at the research station, where Lyssa now worked alongside Sara, both women approached their new responsibilities with renewed vigor. They spent countless hours poring over medical texts and alien schematics side by side. It was evident they had more in common than initially thought. You know, Sara mused as she adjusted a piece of Ven'Thari equipment to better suit human needs, I've always admired your species' precision and efficiency with technology. But there's something about improvisation under pressure that feels freeing. Lyssa nodded slowly, intrigued by the concept yet hesitant in her acceptance. Her upbringing had taught her strict adherence to protocols. Deviation was seen as risky and potentially catastrophic. Yet you did it, Lyssa admitted softly, still marveling at what she'd witnessed. You saved my patient using methods that should have been impossible. Sara smiled warmly without looking up from the medical device in front of them. Sometimes impossible is just a matter of perspective or experience, she explained simply. We adapt and innovate because we must. Their collaboration began to flourish as they delved deeper into each other's methods, finding unexpected parallels between human ingenuity and Ven'Thari precision. Sara taught Lyssa the value of flexibility, how sometimes breaking rules was necessary when lives were at stake. I've seen your species' medical technology in action, Sara continued thoughtfully. You prioritize efficiency over personal connection with patients. Lyssa considered this carefully, her gaze shifting away from the technical diagrams they had been studying to observe Sara's focused expression. There was a quiet strength about Dr. Chen that resonated deeply within Lyssa, challenging everything she believed about human medicine. And yet, Lyssa countered softly, after several moments of contemplative silence, you saved my patient when all else failed. Sara glanced up at her, eyes twinkling with shared understanding and respect. The exchange between them was more than just the transfer of knowledge it sparked, a mutual recognition of each other's capabilities. Exactly, Sara affirmed gently yet firmly. Medicine isn't about sticking rigidly to protocols, it's about saving lives. With Kreth overseeing their efforts, they documented every step meticulously, every adjustment made by hand, every theoretical insight tested in practice. The Ven'Thari Council required nothing less than ironclad evidence before accepting such radical methods. Lyssa's initial awe at Sara's skill had evolved into earnest admiration and a newfound appreciation for the human approach to medicine. She was learning not just procedures, but valuous ones that emphasized patient care above all else, even when it meant challenging established norms. Tell me more about your species' technology, Sara requested one day as they reviewed new diagnostic scans together. I believe combining our methods could yield incredible results. Lyssa's eyes lit up with excitement and challenge both. she was eager to delve into the depths of her own training alongside what Dr. Chen had taught. "I will show you everything I know about Ven'Thari medical systems," Lyssa promised solemnly, already beginning preparations for an intensive session that would push their combined knowledge further than ever before. Together, Sara and Lyssa began developing hybrid techniques that outperformed either species medicine alone methods that balanced human intuition with alien precision. Each breakthrough sent ripples of excitement through both teams working under Kreth's supervision. It was becoming clear they were onto something revolutionary. Yet amidst all this progress came moments of doubt and uncertainty, especially from those skeptical members of the Ven'Thari Council who had initially dismissed Dr. Chen's methods outright. But Lyssa stood firm in defense of their findings, her confidence growing as she witnessed first and how these new techniques could save lives where previous treatments failed miserably. "I am convinced," Lyssa argued passionately one day during a heated debate among senior physicians about the validity of human input on Ven'Thari medicine, "that this partnership has potential far beyond any single success story." Her words resonated deeply within Sara as well. Each small victory they achieved together strengthened their resolve to continue pushing boundaries. The two women had formed an unlikely alliance built not just around medical practice, but mutual respect and a shared mission saving lives no matter the odds. As days turned into weeks, Sara and Lyssa's collaboration continued to yield groundbreaking results, setting them apart as pioneers in interspecies medical innovation. Their partnership was more than a professional arrangement. It represented hope for bridging worlds, once thought irreconcilable, a testament to what can be achieved when two different perspectives come together with the singular goal of healing. Their shared journey had just begun, but already its impact rippled far beyond any single patient's recovery, opening doors to unprecedented possibilities in medicine across galaxies. The dimly lit conference room was filled with a hushed anticipation as Dr. Sara Chen and Lyssa Ven'Thari prepared to present their findings on interspecies medical collaboration at the annual Xenobiology Symposium. The room buzzed with chatter, but both women remained focused, each lost in thought about the journey that had brought them here. Lyssa adjusted her robes nervously, eyes reflecting a mix of awe and nervousness. "I still can't believe we're publishing this," she whispered to Sara as they waited for their turn at the podium. Sara's hand steadied Lyssa's trembling fingers with a reassuring squeeze. "It's about time others see what's possible when humans aren't held back by rigid expectations." Lyssa nodded, her violet eyes locking onto Sara's determined gaze. "You broke me," she admitted softly. "My training taught that you were primitive. Then I watched you save someone. I love using methods I was told would never work. I had to choose between my old beliefs and what I saw with my own eyes." Sara smiled, her dark eyes twinkling with pride. "And you chose your eyes," she replied gently. Their presentation began amidst a mix of anticipation and skepticism. Sara and Lyssa stepped onto the stage side by side, their combined presence commanding immediate attention from the audience. The room fell silent as they started to outline their groundbreaking work. "This is not just about medical techniques," Sara began, her voice steady and clear over the intercom. "It's about breaking down barriers between species." Lyssa continued seamlessly. "The Ven'Thari have advanced technology beyond human comprehension," she explained, her blue hair falling gracefully around her shoulders as she spoke with authority and grace. "But when we combined our methods," Sara interjected, gesturing to their joint paper on the screen, "we achieved results that neither species could achieve alone." They detailed case studies where hybrid techniques had saved patients previously deemed untreatable by both human and Ven'Thari standards. Their research documented a myriad of successful treatments that challenged preconceived notions about interspecies compatibility in medicine. Kreth, their former overseer, who initially doubted Sara's methods, now stood among the audience with a frown etched on his face. He was discredited as evidence mounted against him, proving how short-sighted he had been to dismiss human innovation so readily. As they concluded their presentation, applause erupted from across the room. Colleagues approached them with congratulatory smiles and inquiries about the methods described in their paper. It was clear that Sara's unorthodox approach and Lyssa's open-mindedness had caught fire among researchers eager for new breakthroughs. At a celebratory dinner after the symposium, they were honored with awards recognizing their unprecedented collaboration. The weight of this recognition felt immense to both women, but also invigorating, the symbol of acceptance for something once viewed as impossible. Lyssa hugged Sara tightly, her silver skin glowing faintly in the candlelight. "You did more than just save lives," she murmured into Sara's ear. "You taught me what it means to question everything and trust your instincts." Sara returned the embrace, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment that went beyond accolades or recognition. It was about forging paths where none had existed before. "Let's open our own clinic," Sara suggested later in their room, "where we can continue testing these new methods freely." Lyssa's violet eyes widened with excitement and challenge. "I will need a place to teach what I'm learning from you," she responded with determination. "Then let it be somewhere neither of us has seen yet," Sara replied, reaching for her coat. And so began the next chapter in their story, where they would venture further into uncharted territories together, each pushing the other beyond known limits. Their clinic quickly gained a reputation as an innovative center of interspecies medical research and practice. Patients flocked to them from all corners of space, seeking hope where others offered despair. Yet amidst this success came continued challenges and skepticism. Lyssa's peers still questioned her for working with humans, while Sara faced doubts about the wisdom behind some of their more daring techniques. "Why do you persist?" Lyssa asked one day as they prepared for a new surgery. "Your methods seem almost insane." Sara paused from adjusting surgical equipment to meet Lyssa's gaze squarely. "Maybe because no one told us we couldn't," she said simply, her hands steady, over the alien instruments. Lyssa laughed softly, a sound that blended perfectly with Sara's steady breathing as they prepared for another groundbreaking procedure. "Then keep not knowing," she replied warmly. "It is working." Their survival rate remained unparalleled within their sector, proof positive of what could be achieved when two different worlds came together in pursuit of healing. As the clinic flourished, so did their bond, a testament to the belief that sometimes breaking barriers requires stepping into the unknown with courage and a willingness to challenge old norms. For Sara Chen and Lyssa Ven'Thari, this journey was only beginning. Each new day held potential for even greater miracles than those they had already witnessed. And they open a joint research clinic. Lyssa still calls Chen's methods insane. Chen still performs them anyway. Their survival rate is the highest in the sector. One day Lyssa asks why humans do impossible things. Chen considers maybe because no one told us we could not. Lyssa laughs then, keep not knowing. It is working.